Cold emails have a 1% reply rate, and cold calls have a 2% connect rate. But those numbers don't tell the full story. So in this video, we're going to have a battle of the prospecting channels to see which comes out on top, cold emailing or cold calling, when it comes to driving revenue. And I'm going to draw from my 10 years of experience at Oracle, Google Cloud, and a startup to definitively answer the question, is cold emailing or cold calling more effective when it comes to prospecting in B2B tech sales? Let's dig into it. And in the left corner, we have contender number 1, cold emailing. Cold emailing is like going fishing, where you're putting together a shiny, attractive lure, which is your personalized, value-driven cold email, and casting it out into the prospect's inbox oceans, where you're bobbing that lure in the follow-ups as a ton of other sellers are casting out their own lures into the same prospect's inbox oceans. If you can master the art of creating a very shiny, attractive email lure by picking a strong subject line and writing a compelling email that's personalized, value-driven, empathetic, which I've made a ton of videos on, by the way, and you need to check those out, then you have an opportunity to stand out in overcrowded email inbox oceans to actually get bites. Personally, I've always enjoyed writing and the artistry of crafting compelling emails, and looking back at my 10-year career, I think I've got the greatest overall number of responses and meetings from cold email. The beauty of cold email is it's usually easier to find the right contact information and then to put a lot of effort and intentionality into crafting an email to perfection. And you can almost guarantee that the prospect eventually will see your emails, especially when you bob that shiny email lure in the follow-ups. An email outreach gives you the opportunity to continue to experiment with different types of email lures to see which flavors of value, which customer stories, which relevant triggers, and which flavors of empathy actually resonate most with your prospects to eventually get them to bite. Now, the challenge with cold email is you're going to have a lot of competition here, because other sellers find it more comfortable and easier to send cold emails rather than risking making a cold call. The inbox oceans that you're casting your email lures into are overcrowded, and you might not hear back from prospects for months. You're going to experience radio silence, and you don't know why the prospect isn't getting back. And one other issue you might run into with cold email outreach that I've run into personally is that some of the high potential prospects I reach out to have settings in place that automatically block my emails, and that can get really frustrating. Now let's look at contender number 2, cold calling. Now, cold calling's a lot like spearfishing. You're diving into the water and you're getting up close and personal with the prospect, connecting in a live conversation. Things might get a little intense and physical, but man, is it the best way to make things happen and walk away with something big. Looking back at my 10-year career, some of my biggest deals came from interrupting the prospect with a cold call, including my biggest deal at Google Cloud, a 10 million over 3 deal with OfferUp. That OfferUp deal catalyzed my career, and I know that if I'd only hid behind the comfort of cold email, I would have never got a response. Now, when I cold called the CTO Arian and he picked up, he hit me with an objection, "We're all set on AWS." And because I had prepared and done my homework, I was ready to handle that objection with confidence. I was able to challenge the CTO's thinking, shift their perspective, and create an opening for a conversation that eventually paved the way to the new partnership, and I don't think I would have been able to create that opening via cold email. On cold calls, it's harder for prospects to reject us live than it is to just ghost us via cold email. When you catch a prospect live on a cold call, you have a unique opportunity to make something happen that wouldn't otherwise, especially with prospects who are comfortable with competitors or the status quo. You have an opportunity to actually discover an objection handle, to understand the reality of their unique situation, their motivations, and to actually influence them in a new direction. And unlike overcrowded email inboxes, there's less competition on the phones, because cold calling strangers and interrupting their day is unnatural and uncomfortable. And most human beings and most sellers are going to avoid the hard work and uncomfortable work required to be great. But between us, that's not you, right? You're going to make those calls. Now, one challenge with cold calling is it can be difficult to find the right contact information and accurate phone numbers. It can feel really frustrating and fruitless when you're making calls over and over to the wrong numbers and not getting anyone to pick up. Even when you're using leading contact intelligence databases like ZoomInfo, you're still going to run into issues with inaccurate phone numbers. But fortunately, there's many types of technologies that are emerging like Clay, Casper, and LeadIQ that you can use to enrich your phone number contact information and eventually find the right numbers to get through and break through. So there are pros and cons to cold emailing and cold calling, but now it's time to decide on the definitive victor. So the unanimous prospecting channel champion is cold calling, especially if you have the right phone numbers. Selling is about having conversations, and there's no better way to have real, raw conversations with prospects than to talk to them live. And the best opportunities aren't going to fall in your lap. You got to go out and get them. You got to make it happen. And the best way to do that is to interrupt their day with a cold call so you can wrestle with them a bit, especially if they're comfortable with a competitor. However, although cold calling is king still and is the best single outbound channel if you had to choose one, what is better than just cold calling is to cold email and cold call together, to multi-thread and hit the prospect from different angles, to create more familiarity, to give the prospect options to respond to email if they prefer email, because some prospects do, and to ultimately use the phone and voicemails to point back to your emails to increase response rates. All right, y'all, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, hit the like button, share this video with more people who could benefit from the message, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, committed to helping you crush outbound and up-level as an SDR or account executive in tech sales. Check out my podcast I did with Jason Bay, where we talked about cold calling and cold email messaging. And also, if you want coaching as an SDR or account executive, and you want direct feedback on your cold emails, your cold calls, your discovery skills, ultimately to help you become a better seller and get that next promotion, consider coaching with me and my elite bench of coaches that are at top companies like AWS, Google Cloud, Oracle, among others. And you can apply for that coaching via my Calendly link linked in the description of this video. Thank you for tuning in and being a part of this growing tech sales community. I respect you for investing in your professional development and to your success in tech sales and in life. Happy selling and happy living, and we'll see you in the next one.